So today I'm speaking actually as Yalla project, so not as the professor at Birzeit University, not as, actually as an academic, but as the co-founder together with two Palestinian fellows, Abdurrahman Kittana and Basil Kittana, of Yalla project that I will explain a bit more about it. It's going to be actually more the focus of today's presentation from my side. I just would like to introduce, like to spend 1 minute to first of all thanking you all for your commitment to the Palestinian cause, especially this very difficult moment, and to appreciate how important it is, especially now in the summer, that we keep attention high through seminars like this and through your mobilizing, as during the summertime we are going to have media and academics and students and encampments that are going to be emptied because of the summer holidays, as well as media are going to be distracted with the summary issues. So this is creating a concerning distraction from what is going to happen in here situation. I'm talking to you from the West Bank right now, and I am at the same time teaching remotely to 60 students in Gaza through an initiative by Birzeit University, and I am following up with the degenerating conditions. Many students in the last 3 weeks started defeating courses. It's already very, very difficult for them to get in touch with us, but they are also starting leaving the courses because they are hungry and they are thirsty and they cannot even focus for half an hour because it's physically painful. So it is from yesterday on The Guardian, the news that the Israeli Prime Minister is declaring that he's soon starting a third phase in the war on Gaza, that is going to be, as he says, low pressure activity, which doesn't mean that it's going to be more gentle, but it comes right in a moment that we are going to have this out of the spot activity, and we have to expect that it's going to be perhaps going to be used to strangulate more the local population through thirst and lack of medication and lack of food. So please keep your attention high, and thank you very much for doing that everywhere you are. So today I'm adding to the contribution of my fellow speakers with a space-focused let's say, reflection. So I would like to start briefly reflecting on a huger scale to frame what I'm going to present about our work on the ground in the West Bank by just taking a very brief look at how the Palestinian land has been shrinking in the last century. So as Nama rightfully anticipated at the beginning of this event, it is not the 7th of October the problem. The problem is way older. So just to give you an idea for those who are maybe not familiar with this kind of figures, you can imagine that we started in 1917, so during the beginning of the British Mandate, with historical Palestine being 26,000 kilometers square, and now the entire occupied Palestinian lands is reduced to 6,000. You can imagine, if you compare with the Netherlands, where you are now, you are in a land that is 41,000 kilometers. So you can imagine 6,000 kilometers square, how small it is. Of those, the West Bank is approximately 5,500 kilometers square. But of those 5,600 and something, only 1,570 kilometers squares are actually under the complete jurisdiction of the Palestinians. So really nothing. What is happening here is that we are witnessing progressive matrix of control and a systematic machinery that is stealing the land. And while I'm talking to you, looking through the window in my apartment, I can really see Israeli settlements that in the last few months is expanding enormously. And this thing in the last year is really, really visible. So here you can see, I will explain very briefly how this matrix of control is implemented on the West Bank area. So here I took just a small sample of a rural area in the central north of the West Bank. Is 1 kilometer per 1 kilometer, and this is a small village. So the Hawara village. So what you can see on the left is the pattern of Israeli settlements. And what you are going to see on the right is what is left for the Palestinians. So officially, we have the situation in here, but we have to add that each Israeli settlement, so this is an old picture, so now these settlements are bigger. They come with a buffer zone, so no one can come closer. This buffer zone is patrolled through many different ways, from the militaries to cameras, etc. So whoever enters this buffer zone is likely to be shot. So you can see on the right that actually the accessibility for the Palestinians is already reduced. But we have also to consider that this map that you're seeing is applied on a topography, in a very peculiar topography that is made of hills. Settlements are systematically positioned on the hilltops, which means that they control visually whatever is beneath them. So on the right, you can see in red the parts of the actually Palestinian lands that are visible from any of the settlements. And you can also see on the left that there are many intersections. So whatever moves here is under the visual control and not only. And so in this pattern of control, we have, I quote here, was one statement that clarifies how, let's read it for a second, while tactics at times have little military or strategic value, destroying material homes and houses relate to the attempts to erase the everyday sides of being and belonging to the Palestinians. So which means that the goal here is not just the physical destruction, but is also to destroy the everydayness, so to destroy a normal routine, to manage your life in a way that you can almost control. So here very quickly I'm showing you just a very simple figure of what it means in terms of just housing, how many demolitions we are having, and how much it is difficult for a Palestinian. I mentioned before that only 1,500 kilometers squares are under the Palestinian jurisdiction, which means that whatever is outside that jurisdiction is under the jurisdiction of Israel, which means that if I want to buy a house and to build a house or to do whatever with the lands, I have to apply to the occupier. And here you can see that the 99.1% of applications for building houses in the area C that you can see is the beige one in this map, were rejected between the 2017 and 2022. So you can see you cannot even plan if you want to build something simple like your own house. So, but here I really need to mention something that is important. As you notice, amongst today's speakers, I am the only one who is not a native Palestinian, who is not a Palestinian. I'm Italian. So I really need to put a few minutes to reflect about my positionality here in Palestine and here today with you. So there is a reflection that we must do as Westerns about what and if and to which extent our presence here through NGOs, international aids, is actually helping or indirectly supporting the conservation of the status quo created by the occupation. Here I would like to offer you a simple figure. I want to make this reflection because I have many colleagues that came here with very good intentions and that were not able to capture the role and the impact that we have through this presence. We have to be aware of this, and we are starting through this terrible war to speak out also about this issue. It's very important to reflect on this. So on such a small country, we have approximately 440 NGOs operating. Their impact on international NGOs that are Western based, okay? They have an incredible impact in terms of how money are distributed, say in the mechanism that AIDS, such a massive presence of AIDS is creating locally, is to hold and to be able to stop a development project, to decide who is going to do what and who is going to decide about what, who gives the money, decides about what is going to be done. And something that we witnessed several times, if the diplomatic relationship is not good, also useful projects are frozen. We also have from the perspective of the decision, the local agency of deciding the local agenda, it is also very limited because, as I said, those who give money also decides what is going to be implemented and what are the priorities. Perhaps, and often it happens, there are priorities and needs on the ground that are totally neglected because we have someone flying in with another agenda. It is also about the time horizon. So we do not have actually in this aid supported gigantic mechanism that is in place in Palestine. They are only very short-term projects, while instead planning for a nation needs to think about decades, if not centuries, but at least a few decades, while instead normally an international project ends in maximum 5 years without a follow-up. So there is also an impact on the local culture. So the donor decides which kind of cultural way of doing things, cultural ways and methodologies for implementing projects, for choosing the personnel, etc., should be in place. How we are supposed to talk, how we are supposed to write. So we are in an Arabic-speaking country, but often we come here and we do not know the local language. So we have to produce everything in a foreign language using foreign terms and foreign concepts, of course, because words come with concepts that are culturally constructed. And it also impacts as I said, like the use of the local narrative, using other terms, etc. So I come to who are we actually? So there is an alternative. As a Yalla project, we are working since 5 years to respond to a main question. Is it possible to do things differently? Is it possible to do things in an emancipatory way? Is it possible to be emancipated from all this in a decolonial way that doesn't rely on anything but on local forces? So the Yalla project is a research by doing hub. And we work on social spatial issues and urban revitalization. And since 5 years, we work in our Zero project that is in Nablus Kasbah, so in the old town of Gaza, and of Nablus. We are talking about Gaza so much that I had a lapsus. So we have as overarching goals a grounded knowledge, learning by doing, and integrating the academic, professional, and field knowledge. So the working principle is that we work as a collective, and we work in first person on the ground. So we are not the expert of anything. We are not the architects, the teachers, the professor of anything. We opened two very simple social businesses. That is, on one hand, our interface with the local community, and our way of joining the local community, and also our way to generate an income that supports whatever we do. So here you have a very simple scheme about how we work. So we have a think tank that is a think tank environment, and we have this social enterprises that produce the income and also produce and help us understanding the place and being part of the place and working with the place. So this is a very simple learning by doing loop that is basically our methodology to learn, to work on the ground, to receive a feedback, so to see the response from the field, and then to learn again and adjust. And this goes on and on and on. So, and we work on the intersection between space, society, and time. So we have an historically imprinted way of doing, and of course, looking at the everyday as the main container that we focus on. The everydayness is, as you have seen in the previous statement, a political issue here, and it is an interdisciplinary. So here, just flying into our Zero project on Nablus Kasbah. So here you can see the physical context where we are. This is how Nablus Kasbah looks like, and the red dot is where we are. We had a very simple vision. So mainly, how can we try to reverse, to decolonize the practice on the ground in a way that is different from international NGOs and big machineries. So we started with $6,000 in our pockets and a vision. This was a situation, this statement was the initial situation where we started, and this editing is our vision. So Nablus Old Town, from an urban guerrilla location, to become a safe space, vibrant and welcoming. How did we work between society, space and time? We dedicate and allocate really a lot of time in understanding what are the spatial levers and the social levers at the very micro scale. And this is the location where we are. And the understanding at the spatial scale was also understanding what are the possible practices of people. Amongst those practices is how we move about in the city. And we understood that there were two potential flows that were not existing yet. So we decided to locate exactly at the junction of these two potential flows of, on one hand, students from the local university, An-Najah University, and the tourist flow. So how to work in a place that has an incredible uncertainty that is often disrupted by local guerrilla shooting, the IDF entering, shutting down the city temporarily, etc. We have long-run objective and very short-run tactical actions with a very, very micro budget. So here you can see a little bit how is the diagram of how we start with a very, very small amount, and we work on micro intervention that build up upon each other, and in each step we are able to put aside a certain amount to continue and upgrade and expand. The other element that is very important is to understand the local human geography, the habits, and the roles of the local community, and this is a way to graphicize how we can explain the complexity of local communities at the micro scale. This is also another example of how we try to understand, to digest this kind of data into understanding also local key roles in the cultural microenvironment where we operate. So in practice, we work as a continuous process of inhabiting and rewriting continuously, adjusting to the situation and to the ever-changing habits of the community. Because of course, when you introduce something new in a context, it changes something, it shifts something. So we go with the flow. Here you have a few scenes of how we started and how it became little by little, incrementally. So we have this acupunctural and incremental approach. This is a guest house in an abandoned house. You can see on the left that the roof was missing because it was hit by a bombshell in 2001. So the family that was living in this house thankfully were safe, but they fled as many other families, Nablus Kasbah. So little by little, we were able, only through our small revenues, coffee, croissant, cakes, etc., and catering, and a very simple guest house, to rebuild and then to inhabit again, with different functions. So you can see that in the previous case, we had graduation defense in our space during the COVID. Here it is the rooftop of the same house, how it was when we started, and then in 2019, lower left, and then we have how it was upper right in 2001, and 2023, how it became little by little. Also, in practice, the process of inhabiting it aims to activate something that is very precious, and that without it we do not have a city, that are the practice of active citizenship, that is from opening to the local community to get to know also a broader context, and also supporting the encounter between travelers and the local community in a sustainable way. So not in an unthoughtful way, to reintroduce and to refine cultural practices that were existing in the cities, but also to renew them. So in the middle, you can see an Hakawatiye. So it's a traditional storyteller that is a Levantine tradition that actually in this picture was performed by a woman. So it was something a little bit new. And urban hikes, also transforming, as I said, in terms of shifting conditions. So we are often under military attacks, so our places also accommodate the emergency, because this is part of the local everyday. So here you can see a scene from the COVID-19, and on the left, the recent situation of having the conflict in the city. It also means to find, you remember the social mapping that I was talking about, it also to activate the agency that is latent, that is hidden in the city. And in particular, this was very, we found an incredible and very beautiful responsiveness from local women, and also to seek for inclusiveness and diversity by offering a safe space that is open, gently, and in a way that is sustainable for the local community, for a very diversity of practices, from sports, that is something that was a little bit missing in the local context, to spiritual exercises, praying, and scouts and urban dialogues, etc. To use also social media to keep in touch in a way that it costs less and it's very effective. So here, very briefly, and I'm wrapping up, this is our small intervention. As I said, we started with $6,000 in our pockets. Our impact since 2018 to 9, so in a more or less direct way, we supported the growth and the birth of new activities. So it means new incomes, new urban roles, new opportunities, and also revitalization that is made by the locals. There is not €1 that was put in by any public authority, nor by any NGO here in the entire map that you're seeing. Here you can see a few figures. So we started from that budget, but we estimated that the circle of businesses and income that it generates has now reached more than €3 million, all in micro interventions. This is how it was before we started in 2013 and how it is now, our road. And another scene, happy ever after. Well, it's very difficult. There are pros and there are good sides, happy sides, and there are also a lot of difficulties in working in a decolonized way, in an independent way that is not waiting for aids to be parachuted from somewhere, because of course it disturbs certain mechanisms. So here I offer to you a small reflection, but at the end, all the difficulties that we faced are counterbalanced by a very good response that basically, in one nutshell, I could summarize by the word agency. So we could really see the local agency waking up again after at least 30 years of systematic deeming of this very precious thing. Thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward for your questions.